Good morning students. Many students who are preparing for UGC-NET examination or GATE examination take the poetry section for granted. Even some of the students have messaged me and told me how boring the poetry section is. Many students preparing for competitive examination are afraid of poetry section and they have not started it since the beginning of their preparation. However, many of us are unaware of the fact that poetry section is much more important than prose or novel section. So in this video, we are going to discuss some facts about poetry and why you should start studying poetry or why you should start giving priority to the poetry section rather than any other section in English literature. So before beginning this video, if you are one of those students who are preparing for UGC-NET examination or GATE examination, then you can simply check out our study material on English literature. You can check the link in the description below to know more about our study material. Now without any further delay, let's begin this video. Everyone knows that John Crow Ransom has published a book, The New Criticism, in 1941, which talks about how a poetry should be written or how a poetry should be analyzed. But many of the students are not aware about the fact that this book is written during the World War II and no poet or author is independent of the age he is living in. So during 1940s, the World War II was going on, and at that period of time, the leaders like Hitler, Mussolini, Stalin were looking forward to a straightforward society. They were looking for straightforward meaning and they were trying to establish their own point of views. Hitler promoted fascism, whereas Stalin promoted communism. But according to John Crow Ransom, it is only in the democracy where you will find freedom of expression. So poetry is similar to democracy rather than prose, whereas prose is straightforward. Poetry has multiplicity of the meaning. Each word in poetry acts as an individual of democracy. Each word, each phrase, each line in poetry has its own meaning. For example, you can take an example of Ezra Pound's poem In a Station of the Metro. This poem consists of only 2 lines, but each word in this poem can have lots and lots of meaning. Poetry is like democracy where every individual can have different thoughts, can have different meanings, can have different point of views. Poetry is freedom of expression, the way democracy is. Moving forward, poetry is prophetic and it came before philosophy and history. Even P.B. Shelley hailed the poets as prophets. Poetry is above than nature. Nature can only show what you can see, but poetry can take you to another world. It can show you which nature cannot show you. In reply to a work, 4 Ages of Poetry, written by Thomas Love Peacock, P.B. Shelley wrote Defense of Poetry, and there he says that when inspiration blows over a poet, he creates like a prophet. Even when you read Bible, you find that most of the dialogues written by Adam for humanity are written in poetry. Whenever there is something that Adam wants to stress upon, he uses poetic language rather than simple language. Moreover, right from the very beginning, from Anglo-Saxon to Anglo-Norman to Age of Chaucer to Age of Dryden or John Milton, you see that every work is written in poetic form. Till the age of Romanticism, everything is written in poetic form. It was after in Victorian age, or we can say modern age, we see the works that started coming in the form of novels or prose. In fact, Shakespeare used the poetic language in his dramas. He used iambic pentameter, which helped English literature to establish its place among intellectual literature of other nations like France, Germany or Russia. Take the example of his works like A Midsummer Night Dream, or we can say As You Like It. Even in our schools and colleges, there is a poem titled All the World is a Stage and All the Men and Women Merely Players. This is a monologue by Jacques in Act 2, Scene 7, where he gives a great monologue which have been introduced in our curriculum in our schools and colleges. Even other writers have used the poetic dramas. For instance, John Dryden's All for Love. Moving forward, let's talk a little about literary criticism and literary theory. These 2 complete subjects talk about poetry alone, right from the beginning, from Plato to Aristotle to Shelley, Sidney, or you can say Matthew Arnold, T.S. Eliot, I.A. Richards, Clarence Brooks, R.P. Blackmore, or you can say Russian formalism. Everyone is talking about poetry. Even the greatest defense are taken in favor of poetry rather than prose. For instance, Aristotle is still considered one of the great philosophers that has ever been born on this earth, and he was the first person who defended poetry. he preferred figure of speech as the best medium of expression, particularly metaphor. Even all the great writers has talked about poems, especially T.S. Eliot, or you can say Sylvia Plath or Philip Larkin. However, in the recent times we have seen novels and prose works are getting more priority as compared to poem section. The simple reason is poems are a little complex and intellectual, whereas prose works are straightforward. But in order to develop an intellectual mindset or a philosophical mindset, you must be able to read or closely read the poetry section. So I hope you got an idea that why poetry section is much more preferable than prose section. If you found the video worth your time, don't forget to subscribe the channel for more updates on English literature. That's it for this video. Thank you.